Greg here from Mtek. This week, let's talk content. Cheers, Greg here from Mtek Digital with this week's SEO tip. 2 tips in 1 this week. How about that? Tip number 1, write more content. SEO is based on serving the needs of your users and providing the content that your users are looking for. The best way to do that is to make sure you've got content that actually speaks to those needs. If you do landscaping, you need to have pages that talk about the questions that you would typically get from a potential customer. What days you operate, what kinds of services you provide. But following the tips that we gave you last week, you need to be specific. Have a page that's dedicated to the types of services that you offer. So pick a service, whether that be your cutting service or your treatment, fertilization, whatever it happens to be. Create a whole page that talks about that and talks about answers to the typical questions you receive on a phone call or in person. Next week, write another page of content talking about another one of those topics. Creating a wealth of content on a website is not about doing it all today. It's about doing it over time and creating a long-term vault of information that your customers can draw on or your potential customers can draw on. That also means your potential clients. You can't market to everybody at the same time. So think about the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people want 20% of what you're offering. So focus on that 20%. Focus on what the masses want and is very specific, and then broaden out. More pages, more content means more potential visitors. Which brings us to the second point, and that is keywords and keyword density. Who are you talking to? It doesn't seem like a difficult question to answer, but if you look at a lot of content on the internet, it's surprisingly complicated. Most websites write their page content like a brochure. They use marketing phrases. They use taglines. They use catchphrases. They use best in the business. They use, highest ratings in town. But that doesn't tell anybody anything about your work or the quality of your work or the type of work you do. So focus that content using keywords that are relevant to your customers. You don't want to use the language that's on your brochure. That means they've already talked to you, they already know who you are, and you've handed them something that gives them more detail. When we're talking about search, you need to capture that person first. When someone goes to the internet to search for a plumber, they don't look for best plumber in the West. They look for plumber, my city, or 24-hour plumber, my city. That's the information that's important to them. Focus your content and your keywords around what those searches look like. If you need a hint, go to Google, put yourself in their shoes, and type in a search that says 24-hour plumber and see what Google's recommended or suggested searches are. Those are actually the most frequently used search terms that follow the pattern. By playing with that, you can get a good idea of what people are actually searching for. Take those terms, those phrases, and find a way to integrate those into your content. And by keywording your content, that means putting it in your page title, putting it in the URL if you can, in the page name or the article name on your website. Put it in the heading 1 tag that we talked about in our previous tip. Use that in the content of the first paragraph somewhere. You don't want to use them over and over and over again. We don't want to abuse those keywords. So find 2 or 3 phrases that really best describe what you're offering from the customer's perspective, and then use those few terms 2 or 3 times each over the course of a 600 or an 800 word page. You're going to get the best possible density without going over the top. Google will penalize you if you use too many keywords. They get it. They've seen it before, and they'll filter it out, because if all you're doing is throwing keywords into the mix, you're not necessarily answering their question. So use those keywords, but deliver the answer. Deliver the value for the content that you've provided and the keywords you've provided, and that content will stand out and probably bring your page up higher on the search results. That's this week's tip: content and keywords. Thanks for watching. It's Greg from Mtek.